Discover the incredible journey of ancient wet nurse slaves. 12 heartwarming stories that inspire. In the heart of Chicago, vibrant laughter echoed through the streets, smelling of home-cooked feasts and the rich tapestry of diverse cultures. Rose, a 65-year-old wet nurse, sat in her cozy home, walls teeming with frames of family milestones and joyous gatherings. Shimmering moments danced in her memory, beloved echoes of her 3 children and 5 grandchildren, each representing love, resilience, and joy amidst her life's delicate balance. One sun-drenched summer afternoon, her energetic grandkids plopped down beside her, curiosity bubbling over like the sweet tea cooling on the counter. "Nana, tell us about our family's history," they clamored, eyes sparkling wide with wonder. And just like that, the floodgates opened with warmth in her voice. Rose began weaving a tapestry of 12 extraordinary women wet nurses who nurtured others' children while burying their own heartaches beneath layers of forgotten sorrow. She painted vivid stories of women who cradled the future while wrestling with the injustices of their own pasts. Each tale unveiled hidden strength, vivid with laughter, tears, and quiet resilience, captivating her audience and making time disappear. Just as the emotional intensity climbed, Rose's storytelling caught the ear of the neighbor next door, an upscale couple who had recently moved in, their chilling demeanor and dismissive looks starkly contrasting Rose's warmth. Their presence shook the grounding of the neighborhood. Whispers of envy began to replace laughter as the new neighbors showcased their wealth like a shield, leaving a deep wound in the fragile fabric of Rose's community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As tensions erupted at a community fundraiser, misunderstandings blossomed into full-blown betrayal. One of Rose's closest friends, consumed by envy, turned against her, igniting the suffocating weight of judgment from those around her. Gossip turned into sharp daggers, piercing Rose's heart and resurfacing buried memories of insignificance and fear. The struggle she faced was no longer just for herself, but for every woman who had called this neighborhood home. The stakes had risen dramatically. Could she rise above the ashes of betrayal? Could she reclaim the dignity that had once been a part of her birthright? Her mind raced as she stood amidst swirling rumors and icy glances, a storm of emotions crashing down around her. Her courage teetered on the edge of a precipice, poised to either defend her newfound legacy or confront the ghosts of the past that left scars too deep to ignore. Would she find the strength to unite her community once more, to speak up for those who quietly sacrificed everything for love? With each breath, hope flickered among shadows, inviting readers to follow Rose on this incredible journey, a journey where the quest for justice, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds of family beckoned. What lies ahead is a reckoning that promises to change everything, leaving us anxiously wondering, will her heart prevail? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue across the neighborhood. Rose stared out the window, her heart a cacophony of doubts and fears. She could see her family gathered in the park, enjoying a barbecue as if nothing had shifted beneath their feet. But for her, today felt like an ultimatum. She couldn't shake the weight of betrayal, hovering like a storm cloud over her spirit. "Mom, come join us," her youngest daughter, Mia, called out, beckoning her with open arms. The sound pulled Rose from her thoughts. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the tension that coiled around her like a snake. With each step toward the park, she felt the whispers of the past cling to her, a bittersweet reminder of choices made and sacrifices endured. She reached the laughter and joy. Her grandson ran up to her, his sticky fingers wrapping around her own. "Nana, can you tell us another story? About the brave women, please?" His eyes sparkled with innocence, yet they carried the quiet strength he inherited from her. Rose knew that these stories meant something. They offered hope amid adversity. She glanced around as her family settled onto picnic blankets, faces glowing with anticipation. But in the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of the upscale couple from next door. They watched from a distance, skepticism etched across their faces. It wasn't lost on Rose. She felt the tension in the air like a tightening grip on her chest. "All right, kiddo," she said, giving her grandson a warm smile. "Let me tell you about a woman named Chandra." As she shared Chandra's story, how she had fought against the odds to care for other people's children, while her own were so far from her, Rose felt a shiver of empowerment reverberate through her. The contrast of light and shadow formed an ethereal backdrop to her storytelling. Rose saw her family leaning closer, hanging on every word. It reminded her of the unity and strength that once filled their neighborhood until envy tried to tear it apart. Suddenly, the whispers around her didn't feel as loud. But just as her words began to lift the spirits of her family, another voice cut through the laughter, a harsh, mocking tone from the couple next door. "How quaint," the woman sneered, arms folded. "Isn't it sweet how you think your stories matter?" Rose's heart sank, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Her instincts ignited. How dare they belittle the very essence of community and legacy? This wasn't just a story. It was truth and pain wrapped in resilience. "Every story matters," Rose replied, her voice steady despite the urgency pounding in her chest. "It shapes our past and informs our future. Maybe you should listen instead of judging." The words hung in the air like a challenge, and for a moment, the world around her fell silent. Her family turned toward her, a mix of admiration and surprise glistening in their eyes. Suddenly, the weight of her earlier doubts shifted, brushing against something deeper within. Rose stood tall, feeling the warmth of her children's support flow through her. She wasn't just holding on to her past. She was forging a path for everyone who had struggled alongside her. "I'll share the entire story of Chandra and others, if it helps you understand." That her words were sharper now, fortified by the strength of generations of women before her. "Our stories cannot be erased by envy or ridicule." As everyone listened, captivated by her every word, Rose felt hope pulse around the edges of her heart. Yet, she knew this fight wasn't over. Could her bravery inspire others to find their voice? Could they rekindle the bonds of community that had begun to fray? The air buzzed with questions, and amid the simmering tension, another ripple of change unfurled. The evening wound tighter, emotions scurrying like fireflies in the twilight. Rose felt alive, the resolve in her heart igniting. But there remained an unspoken challenge in the air, a confrontation waiting to be faced. Would she have the courage to rally her community and fortify the very fabric that connected them all? Would the next chapter solidify her legacy as a protector of their shared stories? The answer hung in a delicate balance, leaving the promise of change vibrating in her soul. The moment hung suspended in time, heavy with possibility. Rose's heart raced, the warmth of her family surrounding her infusing her with energy. She locked eyes with her grandson, who was still clutching her hand, his small fingers squeezing with encouragement. In that instant, she realized it wasn't just her fight against the couple's mockery. It was about reclaiming the narrative and dignity of all the women whose stories had been silenced. Stories have the power to connect us. She pressed on, her voice gaining momentum. Every single one is a thread in the fabric of who we are. Her family nodded, their gazes affirming her words. They wrapped around her like a shield, creating a barrier against the sneers that dared to disrupt their harmony. Catching a glimpse of the couple still lingering at the edge of the gathering, Rose felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. They couldn't keep dismissing her community, her family, her past. They were more than just onlookers. They had the right to join in the tapestry of life, just as much as she did. Chandra's story isn't just hers. It belongs to all of us who have fought for what is right, who have nurtured dreams bigger than ourselves, Rose declared, her voice rising above the encroaching silence. Let us refuse to let anyone ridicule our truth anymore. A wave of murmurs spread across the family, rippling excitement through the crowd. Mia, her cheeks still flushed from the barbecue, grabbed her mother's hand. "Tell us more," she urged, eyes wide with anticipation. But just then, The couple from next door took an unexpected step forward, curiosity mixing with disdain. "You think this kind of storytelling changes anything?" the man asked, skepticism dripping from his tone. "What good is a story when the world outside doesn't care?" Rose inhaled sharply, indignation surging within her. But her heart softened at how her family was pulling together, ready to stand shoulder to shoulder against the tide of dismissal. "You're wrong," she retorted, meeting their gaze directly. "Stories can't be dismissed. They hold lives within them. They inspire change. They create legacies. Let us share our stories. Together," her daughter said loudly, rallying the family. "Let us remind them of the power of hope." Suddenly, all eyes turned to Rose, each face eager for leadership, for the words that would guide them through the storm. Feeling the weight of their expectations, Rose beamed with renewed purpose. "All right then, we'll tell Chandra's story together," she said, pointing toward her family, encouraging them to unite their voices in harmony. "We will create a story that will be told again and again, one that cannot be silenced." As they began to share their own tales of struggles, triumphs, laughter, and love, the atmosphere shifted. Others gathered nearby, some drawn by the original barbecue, and now captivated by the cloud of passion filling the air. Faces softened, expressions changed. Her neighbors were no longer just distant watchers. They were becoming participants. But the couple remained, arms crossed, eyes narrowed with displeasure. Their discontent felt like a shadow, threatening to overshadow the light Rose and her family were casting. Rose felt a pang of uncertainty. Would they be able to sustain the momentum? Could their stories truly bridge the gap that had formed in their community? Every voice matters, and together we will rise. She poured her heart into her next words, hoping to pull everyone in. The moment felt pivotal, one that could craft a new direction for not just her family, but for everyone witnessing this unfolding narrative. As the sun dipped lower, enveloping them in twilight, the laughter mixed with the sound of heartfelt stories, gathering strength. Excitement buzzed in the air, but the repudiation from next door stood unyielded. What would the couple do next? Could Rose truly galvanize her community, overcoming the bitter divisions? And what if the resistance she faced would only serve to fuel their collective power? With questions swirling and determination flooding her heart, an unexpected voice piped up from the group, leaving a tantalizing cliffhanger in the air. "What's next? Let us figure this out together." The atmosphere vibrated with the possibilities. Rose's heart raced anew, but this time with hope. How far could they really go? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Rose felt a spark ignite in her chest. It was a clarion call for unity, but it also sent a shiver down her spine. She understood that the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. The couple still stood defiantly at the edge, their skepticism looming like storm clouds threatening to obscure the sunlight that was spilling across the backyard. Mia took a deep breath, her young face lighting up like the summer sky. "What do you want us to do, Grandma?" she asked, excitement bubbling in her eyes. Rose looked around at her family, feeling the energy like a current. "Let us share our stories. Yes, each one a piece of the whole," she exclaimed. "Let us invite others to share their stories too. Let us create a tapestry that no one can undo. The neighbors can join too," someone from the crowd suggested tentatively, eyes darting to the couple by the fence. A ripple of nervous laughter passed through the gathering, but Rose sensed hope in that uncertainty. "Absolutely. Everyone's voice matters. We all have a story to tell," Rose said, her heart swelling. "Even those individuals who might not yet understand the importance of it. We will share our narratives until there's no choice but to listen." In that moment, Rose decided the couple's presence wouldn't darken their light. Rather, it might illuminate a path toward understanding. "Let us invite everyone here, right now," she said with growing enthusiasm. She pointed toward the couple. "Why don't you start?" The air crackled with tension as eyes shifted nervously. The couple exchanged glances, their expressions betraying both reluctance and intrigue. "Are you serious?" the woman scoffed, narrowing her eyes. "You really think we would want to air our dirty laundry here?" "Not at all," Rose replied, maintaining her poise. It doesn't have to be dirty. It can be uplifting, hopeful. We're simply asking you to be a part of this moment with us. The man inhaled sharply, caught off guard by her sincerity. The chorus of murmurs intensified, drawing in others from the neighborhood. Some were emboldened by Rose's same refusal to yield. Others watched, intrigued by the simmering confrontation. So how will this work? He finally asked, openly. Everyone who wants to share can take a turn. We can either speak or even write it down if it feels easier. Rose offered, her tone gentle yet firm. And what if nobody cares? The woman retorted, crossing her arms tighter. I believe they will, Rose answered, her belief unwavering. Because stories unite us. The good, the bad, all of it shapes who we are. Look around, everyone here has experienced something that has made their heart heavy or their spirit sore. Slowly, heads bobbed in agreement. A child's laughter broke through the tension, sounding like music. People needed this connection, this release. Let us do it together. Someone shouted, drawing applause from a few others. Let us begin a discussion that matters. Another added, igniting enthusiasm. Rose could feel the atmosphere shifting. The couple, while hesitant, appeared increasingly caught in the web of growing curiosity and warmth. Then, in a moment of remarkable spontaneity, her grandson stepped forward, tiny chest puffing up with courage. I want to go first. I want to tell my story about the time I helped my friend move and how we laughed while making a mess. The crowd let out a collective sigh of tenderness, and Rose's heart soared at his bravery. Chatter echoed like fireworks against the backdrop of soft dusk. This was it, a beautiful turning point. The woman exchanged glances with her partner, wrestling with an internal fight of acceptance. The encouragement being offered began to ruffle the feathers of their initial disdain. Rose felt hope surging. Perhaps their tales could transcend distance and misunderstanding. Let us gather around in a circle, she suggested. And once one of us shares, the next can jump in freely. As the first story unfolded, the warm feelings of connection wrapped around them like a cozy quilt. The laughter and tears became part of something larger, and she couldn't help but wonder how many lives could be touched by this unfolding experience. But still, the couple lingered at the periphery, their faces unreadable. Would they join in? And if so, would their story bring something different to the table? Would it shatter illusions or weave new threads of hopes? As the laughter erupted louder and stories tumbled forth, Rose looked toward them, her heart flickering with anticipation. What if it's time for everyone to join in the conversation? What could happen next? Would the couple refuse or finally find their voice? The air buzzed with promise as the first heartfelt story became a bridge, one that could lead to the most unexpected of understandings. The first story swirled around them like a gentle breeze, drawing everyone into its warm embrace. Little Tommy, with his wide-eyed innocence, painted a picture of laughter shared over boxes and scattering toys on the lawn. People chuckled together, their shared joy creating a ripple effect that drew in even more hesitant hearts. One by one, others began to open up, fueled by the warmth emanating from the circle. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes shared a tale of her first heartbreak, punctuated by a funny mishap involving a broken string of lights that she had diligently hung for weeks. The crowd erupted in laughter again, the tension easing a little more with each story. The couple remained on the sidelines, their expressions shifting gradually from skepticism to curiosity. Rose couldn't help but steal glances at them, hopeful that this gathering of voices could weave an invitation into their hearts as well. Come on. We want to hear from everyone, Mia encouraged, her youthful enthusiasm infectious. Rose watched as the younger ones, emboldened by the stories, rallied their parents, urging them to share their own. Even the kids, stories from everyone. As the grandmotherly warmth of the gathering enveloped her, Rose felt a surge of hope. The neighborhood was beginning to feel like one big family. But her gaze returned to the couple, reluctantly retreating into their world. Their walls were still high, but were they beginning to crack? Finally, the man stepped forward, the crowd falling silent, curiosity piqued. I never thought I'd be up here, he began hesitantly, glancing at the faces around him. but maybe there's something worth sharing. Rose felt her heart race. This was the moment they all had been waiting for, a voice from the other side. As he spoke, his voice quivered slightly, revealing vulnerability beneath the tough exterior. He recounted a story from his childhood, of a friendship that had sparked amidst a neighborhood feud, how they found common ground over long summer days filled with games. The woman beside him watched, her armor gradually softening. Rose caught her eye, the flicker of understanding forming like light breaking through clouds. Perhaps she also had a story hidden beneath her surface, just waiting for the right moment. Once the man finished, applause erupted. People smiled and shared little remarks. But the moment didn't finish for him. It instead echoed in the air, giving life to a shared understanding that rose above their previous misgivings. Then, without warning, the woman stepped into the circle. Her steps were hesitant, but her eyes sparkled with determination. "I guess it's my turn now." "Huh?" she said, a hint of a smirk breaking the rigid line of her lips. When she began to speak, her voice trembled but grew stronger with each word. "I remember my grandmother used to tell me stories about our family, about resilience, and love as she shared." The crowd leaned in closer, captivated by her honesty, revealing pieces of her heart they hadn't seen before. Rose felt a swell of pride, seeing her dream of unity taking root right before her eyes. Tears came. Laughter followed, ideas bound in those exchanged moments. The warmth of their words mingled with the cool evening air, enveloping everyone with an undeniable magic. Suddenly, it wasn't just a backyard gathering. It was a ceremony of truth, connections bridged through shared laughter, pain, and joy. Rose watched the couple begin to relax, even trade glances that seemed to ask questions of each other. As the stories piled on, each soulful expression pushed the barriers lower, drawing them nearer together. But then something unexpected happened. An old neighbor Rose hadn't noticed previously, quietly observing from the back, stood up. He had to say something, and everyone sensed it. Silence fell heavily in anticipation. What tale would he share? What connection might it reveal, and how might it shift the gathering again? Rose held her breath as he began. Will this be another piece of their evolving tapestry, or could it bring something darker lurking behind? The stories? The old neighbor's voice broke the silence, raspy yet resolute. "I've lived here a long time," he started, his eyes scanning the gathering with a mix of nostalgia and urgency. "And I've seen my share of heartache and joy, just like everybody else." He leaned slightly on the fence beside him, an unsteady but determined figure. "I grew up in this neighborhood when it was just dirt roads and laughter echoing off bare walls. My mom always believed in the power of stories. She'd gather me and my siblings around after dinner, no matter how tired she was, and tell us everything from fairy tales to family dramas. One story was about a woman who lived just down the street from us." He paused, savoring the moment, feeling the audience's rapt attention. "We called her Miss Hattie. She was a widowed seamstress who stitched together more than just clothes. She stitched hearts, too. Every neighborhood kid would flock to her place to listen to her stories, and I was no different." Another neighbor chimed in, "Miss Hattie. Oh, I remember her. She would bake the best cookies." Laughter erupted from the crowd, eager to relive those sweet, simple memories. The old man continued, smiles spreading around him. "One day a storm hit. The rain poured like nothing I had ever seen, flooding our little street and blocking us from school. I was terrified, but Miss Hattie, she gathered us kids together in her living room, lit a fire, and we spent the whole day telling stories and eating her cookies. It was magic. I learned something that day, that even in the darkest storm, you can create light if only you come together." Rose's heart swelled as she listened. Here was another reminder of the power of community, woven through shared experiences and resilience. She stole a glance at the couple. They seemed entranced, leaning closer to one another, as if discovering something new and meaningful. But he continued, his voice thickening, "Not all stories are sweet. I also remember how, after Miss Hattie passed, her house sat empty for years. Her laughter was replaced with silence. Felt like a part of our lives had gone missing. We lost touch with one another, and the neighborhood fractured. The atmosphere shifted, the joy tempered by a hint of sorrow. Rose could sense the heaviness in the air as the crowd absorbed the reality of lost connections. The thrill of unity they had recently felt stood stark against the backdrop of loneliness that can creep in when stories aren't shared. But hear us the thing, the neighbor pressed on, lifting his chin a little higher. We have the power to change that. Stories remind us who we are, and they keep us connected. Just as Miss Hattie brought us together, we can do it again. He glanced around, eyes shining with hope. Stories heal. They bring bridges to our hearts. They remind us to look out for each other. Applause echoed through the backyard, resonating deeper than before. Rose felt a tidal wave of emotions, swelling within her chest. She thought of the barriers left to break down, the connections still waiting to be forged. Suddenly, the couple took a step forward. Their expressions shifting. Was it realization? Something was igniting between them, a fiery curiosity dancing in their eyes. The woman took a deep breath, opening her mouth as though she too had a story to share. Rose held her breath, watching the scene unfold. Would they breathe life back into the union she had envisioned, or would fear silence their voices once more? The woman's lips quivered, pausing on the edge of spoken words as she sought some inner strength. The crowd shifted. Rose could feel the anticipation crackling like static in the air. She leaned in slightly, her heart racing alongside the tremors of hope that echoed in the gathering. Hi, the woman finally managed, her voice just above a whisper. I'm Sarah. There was a gentleness in her tone, something raw and real. She glanced at her partner, who nodded. They stood hand in hand, rooted together. When we moved here, I was so hungry for connection. I've missed having a sense of community like the one you're talking about. A murmur of understanding rippled through the neighbors, nodding along as they too reminisced about their own struggles in the busy world outside these fences. Rose recognized that feeling the way life pulls people apart, even as they want to be close. Sarah took a deep breath, emboldened by the warmth in their responses. My grandmother used to tell stories too. She came from a small town where everyone knew each other's names, where the streets were alive with laughter and shared meals. When she passed away, it felt like that sense of belonging went with her. I realized I didn't want history to repeat itself, you know? Yes, the older neighbor exclaimed, raising a hand as if to join Sarah's train of thought. When we forget to share, we lose what makes us human. Rose could see Sarah's confidence growing. I believe we can start small. Maybe we could all gather, share a meal. She hesitated, glancing at the crowd, and tell our stories, just like Miss Hattie did. Stories about the places we've been and the things that shaped us. Excited murmurs began to blend with laughter as the neighbors started to connect in this small moment. It was electric, a surge of kinship, shared dreams. The couple exchanged glances, both visibly inspired as they realized that they were not only sharing their story, but inviting everyone else to step into their own narrative too. Imagine what would happen if we didn't let our fears silence us. Sarah encouraged, her voice growing stronger. We could host storytelling nights, potlucks where everyone can share their own version of Miss Hattie's magic. A chorus of eager voices rose in agreement, plans being tossed like confetti in the air. Excitement buzzed through the crowd, and Rose felt a swell of hope. It was as if something dormant had begun to awaken. But then, just as quickly as it sparked, a cloud of uncertainty drifted through her mind. What if they tried and failed? What if, amidst the storytelling, their vulnerabilities bared too much pain? As if answering her thought, the old neighbor stepped forward again, his brow creased with wisdom. It's not about perfection. It's about being real, sharing the joy and the heartaches. That's what binds us. His voice steadied her thoughts, amplifying the warmth that enveloped them. Rose realized she couldn't let fear cloud this beautiful moment. They had an opportunity to transform their community together. But would they find the courage to embrace their pasts, both joyful and painful, to connect deeply with one another? She took a breath, ready to share her own story, to let her heart lead. And just as she was about to speak, a distant sound broke through the air. a reminder that the world outside their gathering was still moving. A child's laughter mixed with the honking of a car horn. It was a reminder of the life beyond the stories, a life waiting to be engaged. "Are we ready?" she asked, gathering their attention, her voice almost pleading with the urgency of the moment. As the crowd shifted their gaze to her, the horizon of possibility stretched wide. Would they all step forward into this next chapter, holding tight to each other as they faced the unknown together? Rose's heart raced as she stood at the center of the gathering, aptly aware of every expectant gaze weighing on her like a gentle embrace. She had almost forgotten the weight of longing to share, to be heard and seen. Slowly, she spoke, her voice firmer than she felt. "I have a story too, about loss, love, and the ties that bind us." As she began to weave her tale, the faces around her softened. The uncertainties she battled melted away, replaced with a sharing spirit. "When I was a little girl," she recalled, "my family moved a lot. I never felt rooted anywhere. But I remember this one summer, a neighborhood block party. She could almost smell the hot dogs sizzling on the grill, the sweet scent of lemonade filling the air as laughter echoed among the children. It wasn't just a party, she realized, but a tapestry of moments, shared stories over plates piled high with food, kids racing around with makeshift games. That's where I learned the magic of community," she continued, her words flowing like a long-lost melody. "It's where I discovered that everyone holds a piece of each other's story. Even if we're strangers, we're all connected at some level." With her narrative unfolding, a ripple of recognition sparked through the crowd. Neighbors nodded, some laughing, others wiping away quiet tears. The depth of human experience hung in the air, raw yet beautiful. Her story shifted slightly, deepening in tone. "But I also learned what it meant to feel unseen. When my parents divorced, I felt like I stepped into a void, a space where love used to exist. My heart ached for connection. That's why when I see you all here, I feel this profound hope, like we can build something together, something that lasts." The sincerity of her words hung in the air like delicate smoke, drawing everyone closer. The tension of vulnerability began to weave itself into the crowd, many hearts beating as one. Rose glanced at Sarah, noting the tears glistening in her eyes, and felt a surge of courage radiate from those shared glances. The old neighbor stepped forward again, his voice quiet but resonating. "Sharing stories isn't just about reliving the past. It's about inviting others into your life. It's about healing." Their eyes met, and it was as if the room collectively inhaled. "Let us not just talk about our stories," Sarah chimed in, her spirit ignited. "Let us make a promise to one another. When we gather, we start as strangers but leave as family. Let us create a space where everyone feels free to be their true selves." And there it was, a commitment to the vision they all craved deep down. They would take the leap together, guided not by perfection, but by authenticity. The energy began to shift, a shared understanding blossoming in the gentle smiles exchanged among neighbors, as the initial awkwardness transformed into a vibrant weaving of connection. Rose felt the rush of possibility wash over her. They were ready to step into this new space, to invite laughter alongside tears. But just then, a loud crash startled the crowd. It came from the back of the gathering. An unfamiliar figure stumbled forward, dripping with uncertainty and fear. A stranger, in need of connection, was now stepping into the heart of their shared moment. "Is this where the stories are?" the newcomer asked hesitantly, eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of desperation. The crowd hushed, their initial cheer transformed into a silent question. What would happen next? Would they embrace this interruption and let another story fold into their collective tale? Rose felt the surge of excitement and fear mingle in her chest. What if their growing community could reassure not just one another, but even the strangers who wandered into their lives? With the air thick with possibility, Rose stepped forward again, ready to welcome this unexpected twist. The newcomer shuffled forward, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of a worn jacket. He seemed small beneath the weight of the eyes upon him, but there was a flicker of determination in his gaze. Rose noticed a hint of vulnerability, as if he were braving an unseen storm. "Please, I don't know anyone here," But I heard voices, he stammered, his voice barely rising above a whisper. I've been feeling lost, alone, and when I saw this gathering, he trailed off, his breath hitching. The crowd held its collective breath, a spell binding everyone together in that moment of uncertainty. Rose felt her heart thud in response. This stranger, with the air of desperation around him, resonated with the very essence of her own story. Could she reach out, stretch her hands toward the unfamiliar, and bring him into the warmth of their unfolding community? Absolutely. This is where the stories are, she replied, her voice steady yet inviting. Everyone is welcome here. As if a dam had burst, the crowd began to lean in, drawn by the magnetic pull of shared humanity. A woman in a bright yellow sweater smiled encouragingly at the newcomer, while an older man whose hands trembled a little began to nod in understanding. Can you tell us your story? Sarah prompted, her enthusiasm rekindling the atmosphere. The stranger paused, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. He looked around, eyeing the faces filled with compassion, not judgment. My name is Eric, he finally said, voice thick with emotion. I moved here a few weeks ago. Felt like running away. A chance to start over. But he hesitated again, searching for words. The weight of everything just followed me. I thought maybe coming here would be different, but I just feel like I'm standing on the outside. A few murmurs broke out among the group. Empathy painted the faces surrounding Eric. They understood the feeling of isolation. Rose felt a stirring in her chest. This was it. This was what they had spoken of, creating a space for others to belong. Eric, you're not on the outside, she said softly, her eyes locking onto his. We all have our burdens. You're with friends now. Please, share with us what weighs on your heart. As Eric looked among them, the tension in his shoulders slowly relaxed. He began to speak, each word taking flight. I left behind a family of my own. There was love, but also so much pain. It's hard moving away from what feels like home, yet knowing it's not home anymore. Every day here feels like I'm forcing myself to start anew. Tears brimmed his eyes. The crowd was captivated. There was a mutual understanding of resilience and vulnerability. Rose felt her own emotions swell. Sometimes, Sarah interjected gently, the hardest part is not just moving physically, but carrying our pasts with us. We've all been there in some way. The crowd nodded in unison, establishing a thread of solidarity among them all. Rose took a moment to absorb the energy in the air. Stories intertwined like threads of a beautiful quilt. No narrative overshadowed another, yet they formed something powerful. Sharing their scars made them stronger. As Eric spoke, others chimed in with their experiences, each story lifting one another, creating a web of interconnectedness. The gathering transformed. Laughter mingled with tears, hope interlaced with shared sorrow. Rose felt the warmth blanket everyone like a comforting embrace. They were building a new story together, one that would hold them when they felt alone. But just as the rawness of connection seeped into the air, a loud shout broke the moment. A voice from the edge of the crowd broke through the haze of shared emotions, snapping them back to reality. Hey, what's going on here? The sudden intrusion threw the gathering into chaos. Eyes shifted, faces turned, and the warmth that had cultivated moments before flickered like a candle in the wind. Rose's heart sank. Who now threatened the fragile unity they had just begun to forge? It hung heavily in the air. What would happen next? Would they step back from the brink, or would they confront this new challenge together? The sun hung just above the horizon, casting a warm glow over the backyard as confusion settled among the crowd at the unexpected voice. It was Judith from the upscale couple next door, the same voice that had once dripped with disdain. Now, however, something had shifted in her demeanor as she stormed forward, but the fear and defiance in the air was palpable. What's all this? She demanded, her eyes wide with bewilderment, yet tinged with curiosity. Silence fell upon the gathering. Faces of neighbors turned to look at her, feelings of solidarity momentarily threatened. Rose stepped forward, her heart racing. The warm connection they had built around shared stories hung in the balance. We're sharing our experiences, our struggles and our hopes. It's about belonging, Rose replied gently, feeling the solidarity of those around her. Judith's brow furrowed. Belonging? In a neighborhood like this? Rose could see the skepticism flicker in Judith's eyes. But before Rose could answer, Eric spoke up, stepping out of the growing circle, his voice quiet yet insistent. You might find it more than you expect. I thought I was the only one feeling lost. The casual, withering gaze Judith usually wore began to falter. Rose seized the moment, letting the urgency compounding in her heart bubble over. Every story here matters, Judith. And right now we are choosing to connect. This neighborhood was alive once, let us bring it back. A murmur rippled through the crowd, voices joining in with cautious encouragement. Judith glanced around, taking in the faces of her neighbors. There was Mia, hopeful and bright, and the older neighbor whose voice had just shared heartfelt wisdom. Even those who had whispered doubt earlier were nodding, drawn together by shared humanity. Maybe, just maybe, she would understand. Judith inhaled deeply, as if she was pushing through an invisible barrier. What's wrong with me being skeptical? She challenged, but there was a new layer of softness in her voice. I don't know how to be part of this. You start, Sarah offered, stepping forward beside Judith. You share just a little and we'll be right here with you. Sarah's eyes sparkled with empathy and encouragement, illuminating the way ahead. The crowd leaned into the moment, urging Judith to take the step toward vulnerability. I could tell you my story about moving here, she said, her tone still wavering, but I am terrified that I don't want to feel judged. It's okay, Rose reassured her, stepping a little closer. We're all here to listen. No judgment, just understanding. Just like we've all been sharing. The moments stretched, palpable with anticipation. Judith looked at Eric, who was now smiling gently. What if we don't judge each other? What if we listen? He encouraged, as the air thickened with the possibility of connection. Fine, Judith relented finally, her voice cracking just slightly. It's just difficult for me to feel like I belong when I'm scared that it's all just nice words and nothing more. Her heart bared itself to the gathering, echoing the hidden fears they all carried in various forms. Suddenly, the barrier Judith had worn fell away. I grew up in a community just like this one. I thought it would get better as I grew up, but it didn't. The laughs faded when the wealth came in. Everybody I knew pulled away. We lost something valuable, something real. Her voice softened. I wanted to belong again, but seeing this neighborhood made me feel empty, and that feeling brought too many old memories rushing back. Quiet understanding passed over the crowd, heads nodding in shared experience. Judith, you've lived through that too. It's hard to share, but you'll find they're ready here to grow with you. Together, Rose whispered, feeling emboldened by Judith's honesty. So many neighborhoods have connected by rebuilding their stories together, and we can do that too. Judith's eyes shifted around, reflecting the raw emotions swirling in the air. Encouragement thrummed within the crowd, apparent in every face that nodded, their support swelling toward her. A child called from the side. Can you tell us what your favorite story is? The infectious innocence broke the tension, eliciting chuckles. Judith's expression softened, and laughter rolled gently through the crowd. I can't. Not yet. But maybe someday. I think I want to share it. Here. That's a start. Rose cheered, feeling hope leap within her heart. A collective murmur of agreement rose among the enlightened crowd. In that moment, the sun dipped lower, illuminating the faces of neighbors new and old, tangled together in unspoken promises to share, to grow, to embrace every story that came their way. Rose's heart soared as every face brightened under the twilight glow. The evening continued, and the circle breathed life anew, reverberating warmth around them. Voices intersected, laughter spilled free, and they explored stories all the way through the fading daylight. Each person became a part of the quilt as Judith finally assumed her place among them, the walls she had built starting to dissolve, as dusk enveloped the neighborhood. Rose's voice rose above the chorus, vibrant and strong. Together, we are more than the sum of our stories. Let us promise to share more, to connect, and to write the next chapters together. The pledges echoed around them, and every heart felt lighter. They weren't just telling stories, they were living them, breathing love and unity into every moment. This was the moment to reclaim their story, their neighborhood forever in the shimmering tapestry they had woven together. The journey was just beginning, but each heartbeat promised hope, connection, and resilience beneath the brightening sky of a new dawn. Now, with the heart of the community alive in their stories, we need your support to continue sharing these incredible tales. You need to subscribe now to stay part of this transforming journey. Leave a like now to show that you believe in the power of stories reaching more hearts. Comment below your reactions. Your thoughts share how you connect with this story and what has sparked in you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this uplifting video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Together, we can spread warmth and connection.